Hey everybody, tonight we are testing out 4 different methodologies to set white balance in your camera on a high school football field, which, you know, have a reputation for not so good white balance. All right, let's go. Let's talk about the 4 methods that I'm talking about to set white balance for this game. In the first quarter, I'm going to be using auto white balance. The reason being is because we're going to be transitioning from sunset to darkness, and from the sunlight to the stadium lights, and just because of that transition, we just need something that's going to change on a regular basis. So auto white balance. In the second quarter, I'm going to be using what's called the live view function on my Nikon cameras. I'm sure all the other brands pretty much do a similar thing, but basically what's going to happen is I'm going to put it in live view in the back, and I'm going to adjust the white balance to what my eye sees it to be approximately the right function. In the third quarter, I'm going to be using a gray card. And so at halftime, I'm going to take a photograph of this gray card right here, and then I will actually use this gray, this 18% gray, this neutral gray, in post-production to set the white balance for all the photos. In the fourth quarter, I'm going to be using an app called Light Spectrum Pro. Light Spectrum Pro is pretty good about giving you the Kelvin numbers of the scene that it's looking at. What I'll do is I'll take those Kelvin numbers, put them on my cameras, and then I'll shoot that quarter using those numbers. All right, let's get going, shoot some photos, and we'll see how they all come out and which actually work best on this particular field. So tonight I'm shooting in RAW plus JPEG. As you know, if you've seen any of my videos, I much prefer shooting JPEG under low light conditions. So I'm going to be shooting both, but we're going to be using RAW as the comparisons instead of the JPEG. When we get home, I'm actually going to run it through Nikon's NX Studio to get the best possible colors I can get. I know Adobe Lightroom is pretty much the standard everybody uses, but you know, Adobe is just second guessing what Nikon is doing. Basically, Adobe reverse engineered what Nikon's RAW files are. So let's use the Nikon software to get the truest colors possible. All right, it's the second quarter. Now we're going to switch to live view. I'm going to do the same settings on both cameras. I'm going to go with cool white fluorescent. All right, that fluorescent actually looked pretty good in the back of the screen. We'll see when we get back and take a look at it closer. Now it's halftime, so what I'm going to do is take a photo of gray card, and then I'll use those settings for that quarter. All right. All right, everybody, so we've gone out, we've taken our photos, we've gotten them back, we've processed them, and let me explain what exactly I did so you understand how I came to the conclusions that I came to. First of all the photos have been processed in what is called NX Studio from Nikon. I'm a Nikon shooter. I shot Nikon RAW files, and NX Studio is made by Nikon for their RAW files. If you are a Nikon shooter, I'll put the link below. It's easy, it's free, download it and use it. I like it. So I want you to understand that no color corrections have been made except for, you know, as you recall, I used a gray card for some of the photos, and I did actually use the color picker on the gray card for that group of photos, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So I have done some cropping on the photos that I'll show you, and I did do some adjustments as far as the exposure compensation. But beyond that, I did no other color corrections other than what I've just already described. So what you see is what the camera got. My final outputs were just in JPEG as is, and we'll take a look at it here right now and see what came out. Okay, let's start off with the auto white balance. As you recall, on the auto white balance, I chose to start with that because I still had some sunlight at the beginning of the game, and I was going to get mixed sunlight and stadium lights, However, all the photos you're going to see here are ones from when the sun was down and it was purely stadium lights in use. So let's look at this first photo. So this first photo, not too bad. I really can't complain about it. Let's zoom in a little bit. You know, the thing we're really looking here for is skin tone. And overall, I think that's pretty good. I like it a lot. It's slightly warm maybe, and the colors can be punched up a little bit, which is what I would do. But beyond that, I mean, it's when we're talking about, you know, overall color tone, I think it's pretty good. Again, auto white balance, and we'll zoom in, check out skin tones. Again, pretty good. I really can't complain about this. I have a hard time picking out issues with this particular photo. Skin tones look pretty good. The whites don't look crazy color, some weird kind of color, and I think it came out pretty good. So another score for auto white balance here. Okay, so let's move on to the next set of photos, and this one is from the live view. Now, as you recall, I was out on there and I had the field in my viewfinder in the back of my camera, which is not very big viewfinder, and I was just kind of moving it up and down to see which one worked the best. And I'll be honest with you, it's kind of a guess, you know, what kind of looks best in that viewfinder. So I guessed actually pretty well, I think. So let's look at the first one. So here's the first one. Again, using which was cool white fluorescent, by the way. Again, not bad. I think his skin tones are pretty good. Again, I have few little quibbles. It looks slightly maroon down in his uniform, but again, if we focus on skin tones, don't have a ton to argue with. Maybe I can massage it a little bit, but I think overall it came out pretty good. Let's look at the next one. Here's the other quarterback. I'll zoom in a little bit on him. Again, let's work on skin tones. Again, pretty darn good. I must have guessed pretty well as far as what, you know, that cool white fluorescent. I really can't quibble with this one. The next one was with the gray card, as you recall. So this is with the gray card. The interesting thing about using a gray card is when you're doing the color picker, sometimes you pick from one spot, and you get one shade, and you pick another spot, and you get a slightly different shade. That's always kind of the problem I've had with the gray card. It sometimes works perfect, but sometimes you move it someplace else, not quite the same, just variations in the pixel colors. In this case, I think this is a little blue, a little cool, so I would probably modify this a little bit. Same thing with this one, not horrible, not bad, but again, looks a little cool to me. Maybe I just prefer things a little warmer, I don't know, but it looks a little cool to me. So gray card is good, but it's not infallible. All right, let's go to the next one, which was that Light Spectrum Pro Evo app. So Light Spectrum Pro. So as you recall, it told me to set my camera at 39. It specifically said 3988. The closest I could get was 3980 on my camera. As you can see in this photo, it looks a little yellow, and B, it looks green to me. And I would tell you when I was shooting the photos, I was looking on the back of my camera, I could see how green it was. Now the interesting thing is on the Light Spectrum Pro on the graph, it did show it skewed to the green. The problem I had, especially I was in this situation, was how do I compensate for that? Because the numbers on the Pro don't match the numbers in my camera as far as color compensation. So how do you set these things? I think if I shot at this location a lot and I use this particular technique, I could work it out. But if I'm going from one field to the next, I don't know that I'd use this. In fact, I'm probably pretty sure I wouldn't. All right, now that we've gone through all four techniques, let's grade them and see how they came out. All right, first off, we had auto white balance, which in this case worked pretty darn good. I'm not gonna sit and tell you that it works perfectly in every situation. It can get thrown off, but in this situation, it worked pretty good. Next up, we had live view, where we scroll through the various settings for the different Kelvin levels and just kind of eyeballed it. It worked pretty darn good, I have to say, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. I will tell you that there's another variation on that technique where you just take a photo at the different light white balances, take a look at it on the back of your screen. If it works, great. If it doesn't, go to the next one. I've done that before too. Works pretty good. In fact, it may even work a little bit better or be a little less stressful than trying to do it on the screen, moving it up and down like that. Number three, we had gray card. Gray card works good, and it's kind of a standard go-to. As you can see though, you have to be careful with it, and you have to choose where you hit those pixels when you do the little eyedropper in Lightroom or whatever your favorite editing software is. So you can't just madly click on whatever you want and figure it's going to be good. You have to make sure when you click and you look at your photo, it looks like it's supposed to look. Finally, we had Light Spectrum Pro Evo, which I don't know if it's worth it. I think it would work. I mean, I've seen lots of other people extol its virtues, but in my case, in this particular situation, it didn't work very well at all. So I think I would probably use one of the other 3 techniques before I use the Light Spectrum Pro. All right, there you have it. 4 different ways to set white balance on some of these crazy lit fields that we often deal with as sports photographers. If you have a variation on what I just described or a different technique, I'd love to hear about it. Put it in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that subscribe and hit that like. All right, until next time.